All right. Greetings all, it's Max here, Just Plain Science, and today we're going to talk a little bit about GPS and the scam that is. This goes all the way back kind of sort of to what they used to call, satellite television, where people had the big dishes in their yard and they said, oh yeah, that's pointed at something in the sky 10,000 miles away. And that thing in the sky has all this power to transmit a video signal all the way down for your little television. And you're paying $50 or $60 a month somehow pays for the satellite to be able to do that, and the technology that has worked flawlessly for 30 or 40 years, right? Unlimited energy in this satellite to beam these transmissions to all these house loads all over throughout America in the 80s. All right. The upgrade to that here now is the GPS system, where this GPS system apparently has been up there, and it was a national defense thing where they had these satellites, and then Bill Clinton said, oh, everybody can use the satellites. Well, I guess by everybody, he meant in America in 1994, which would be basically when everybody was started carrying cell phones. That's when the cell phone thing came out. And when you had cell phone towers in every major city all over the place, all of a sudden, voila, we have GPS. And they just did it for free, right? They just did it for free. We have these satellites that are up there that anybody can use, right? Oh, no, only Americans can use. Why? Because the towers are in America, guys. There isn't anything buzzing around up over your head telling people where they are. There might be balloons and stuff now. But if you have all these satellites, here's an image of what's the space junk, and they say all the stuff is up there. Is if you have all these satellites, they don't just hover over America. Okay? They go around the globe. So we're looking here at the different systems. If America has the GPS system up there, why wouldn't everybody else be using it for a fee? Instead, everybody else has their own systems. We look here, Global Positioning System in the United States. It's the oldest one. Initiated operations in 1978, huh? We put up satellites in 1978, you think? Available for global use from 1994. You mean like when Nokia put up all these cell phone towers everywhere? The need to have an independent military navigation capability drove its innovation, and the U.S. military was the first to realize this. Right, back in World War II. Everybody was using GPS by the end of World War II. And thus, in 1964, the transit system was deployed for its purpose in transit, which is also known as NASVAT, worked the Doppler effect, and blah, 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 blah. Till date, GPS has launched 72 satellites. That apparently only works for Americans. Russia has their own system. Became operational in 1993. Amazing. And they have 12 satellites in 2 orbits at the height of 19,000 kilometers. 19,000 kilometers. That's 10,000 miles, guys. 10,000 miles. So their satellites, maybe it's a misprint, but their satellites up there out past the moon, that's beaming back to Earth. So you can find your way to the store or your friend's house all the way down to your cell phone. You guys know the amount of power that would be required in something like that to send an actual microwave transmission that far? Then the EU has Galileo, and they supposedly have 22 satellites in orbit. Why does everybody need their own satellites? Just for their own little tiny pinprick of a country on this big old Earth, spinning around 1,000 miles an hour, rocketing through the galaxy. If these are satellites, why does everyone need their own satellite? Why wouldn't they lease out? Wouldn't the whole purpose of putting a satellite up there? Remember, guys, nothing happens without somebody getting paid. Nobody does anything out of the goodness of their heart. Oh, we're the government. We're going to help the people by putting a GPS satellite up. That doesn't happen. So, what is the real deal here? All of these countries need their own thing as they get more and more money, as they build up their infrastructure, as they, like China's now putting up their stuff. India's putting up their stuff. Why do they need their own system? Probably because they're tired of paying America for their cell phone towers. So they're putting up their own thing to save money. But it's not satellites. It's not satellites. It's cell phone towers. Japan, they have their own. India is doing their own. See, if these things, again, are spinning over your head, every country needs their own. Why doesn't Brazil have their own? They probably don't need it because they have cell phone towers. It's all a big scam. Now, we're going to go over here to what was this one here? GPS and water don't mix. We'll get into this in a second. I want to go here to how far a cell phone tower actually you can receive a signal from it. And it says right here it's going to be maximum distance is going to depend on a lot of different things. And they say it's somewhere between down here up to 45 miles away, but could be as low as 22 miles away. That's a pretty good indicator of what you're dealing with. So now when we look at over here, America's tower revenues will tank if India government fees create a carrier duopoly. So remember, we read in this last article that India was putting up their own GPS. Coincidentally, at the same time as they're having this fight out over cell phone towers in India and their cell phone carriers. Okay? You think, guys, that maybe the reason the United States has military bases in all these different countries is because we're protecting our infrastructure of cell phone towers that provided GPS for people? Do you think? Maybe? Or do you think it's satellite zooming overhead with unlimited energy to shoot microwave radiation through the atmosphere, a dense atmosphere, down to your cell phone or the cell phone tower that broadcasts it out or whatever they're doing? If that was the case, obviously, why do you lose GPS signal flying over the ocean? Okay, there's ocean boats out there that have towers on them so people don't lose it. But why is it also that when our military goes someplace, you have people in trucks that are setting up cell phone GPS towers? I have a family member who did that for their career. So why is that if you've got all these satellites? Why are the satellites, why is the GPS constricted to the borders of a country? Where you get outside the country, it doesn't want to work anymore. Why is that? So here we are in India, where they're having their cell phone tower shootout, where everyone wants to have their own thing, right? India, the Indian Regional Navigational System, which later given the operational name blah, 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 is in the Regional Satellite Navigation System of India, launched and operated by Indian Space Research Organization. India and nearby regions extending up to 1,500 kilometers. And okay, so they're saying here they're sending up satellites, but it only actually, the regions that it covers is only 1,500 kilometers. Why? It's in space. See, these are all code terms. Satellite is a code term. Here they're talking about not getting a satellite up anyways. Scam. In other words, oh yeah, the rocket blew up. Give us more money. We were going to put a GPS satellite up. Miraculously, no one noticed any disturbance in their GPS at all, even though their rocket exploded on the ground. No disruption in service. Has anyone had disruption in service in GPS? Those things just work 100% of the time perfectly for the last since 1994, guys. 26 years. How many more years do we have to go before people start asking questions? I worked with a person also who was a cell phone tower maintenance guy. He was pretty busy driving around all the different towers, doing upgrades and replacing stuff and all of this. But miraculously, these satellites are made of impervium, where they never decay and never succumb to the second law of thermodynamics. Never. There isn't too much else that I wanted to cover with this, but the whole big scam that you need to have these satellites up here for a global positioning system is like, when has the government ever done anything for free for you? Who's maintaining these things? The fake people on the fake space station, they're maintaining the 72 satellites that are in orbit. This is the Alex Jones thing where he goes off to that they're doing all these secret operations in space, and he's part of that whole thing, and it's just nonsense. Alex Jones doesn't believe that. Sure makes a good story, though. So anyways, this is all the crap that's supposedly in space, right, when it's given a visual representation of it, but you never see any of it in the sky. Okay? You never see any of this stuff. You see balloons go across occasionally. But NASA runs their 24-hour feed on their space station. They never accidentally come anywhere as close to a satellite. You'd think by now they'd have some difficulty with that. Nope. So I want to go back to this article. We're talking about GPS and water. See, GPS and water don't mix. So scientists have found a new way to navigate under the sea. Radio waves don't really work underneath the water. So, being that our atmosphere is high, a lot of water in our atmosphere, and the maximum range of a cell phone tower being like 45 miles or something like that, you have these satellites sitting up at 350,000 miles away that are supposedly beaming back, or 350,000 feet, I don't remember, but beaming back through an atmosphere largely comprised of water, with all of these supposed things that protect us from the sun's radiation. And according to this, the radio waves don't even work underwater. That's why sonar exists. MIT scientists have been looking for ways to create a new type of underwater GPS, which could be used to better understand the mysteries of what lies between the surface and the seabed. Hey, how about sonar? The researchers have now unveiled a device called an underwater black scatter localization that reacts to acoustic signals. Sonar. Okay. Now, even the air that we breathe down at ground level, you've got at least 50% humidity in it. Most places, unless you're in a desert. A lot of places, though, it's like 80, 90%. Now, they probably need to have more cell phone towers in those places. One of these articles that I had up talked about how India is putting in it was this one. India is putting in something like 80,000 cell phone towers. American Tower India owns and operates over 78,000 tower sites. This is just one company. So you don't think that could account for 100% of the GPS in India? It could. What if those rates are so high that India decides that it's better for them to build their own towers than to rent it from an American company, which is what's going on. 80,000 towers, guys? Or a dozen satellites floating around in mythical space with unlimited power that never break down, that beam your GPS data down to only your specific country of origin. Only your specific country of origin. When we went and invaded Iraq, America went in to invade Iraq, why were not the GPS satellites actually giving GPS data to those troops? Why were their trucks set up with receivers and radio and cell phone data and GPS data all being set up remotely? Couldn't the satellites zoom over? Couldn't the satellites be reached in Iraq? They can only be reached in North America? A lot of questions, but at the end of the day, it's perfectly clear that our GPS stuff comes from cell phone towers. That's where it comes from. There's zero question about any of that stuff. You get out off the main lanes, going into the oceans. The routes less traveled, should they say, mysteriously you don't have your GPS anymore. If you have your cell phone and you go out of town a decent ways, out into the middle of nowhere, you don't have your GPS anymore. So that's what we got with that. And yeah, with that, we're going to be out of here. I think next we're going to talk about, next live stream is going to be about jobs and industries that require the earth to be flat for them to even exist. All right. With that, we're going to be out of here.